Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Chipod Ironicast, episode 8. This is coming at you July 2015. How are we all doing today? I say to you, the only other person in this.
I'm doing great. I watched Roadhouse last night. It made me want to punch a man.
And that's all that needs to be said about that. We've got a few great topics coming up at you today. We're going to talk about Let's Plays as part of the game development process. We're going to talk about managing your terror. And we're going to talk about probably our saddest topic, the recent loss of Satoru Iwata, and what that means going forward, and some reminiscences on seriously a great man and a towering member of the games industry. Mm. And to bring us back up from that, hopefully, one of your questions submitted once again to...
that would be chipcheesem at chipandIronicast.com.
That's right. That's where we take our podcast questions, and they've all been pretty fantastic so far. This month's, I don't think, will be any exception. I suppose we should explain why there's no July specific episode. You may have noticed that Chip streamed live reactions to every E3 conference with a rotating cast of co-commentators, including myself, for 3 of them. And you can find those.
Those are at chipandIronicast.com. They're hosted on a different account just in case they get taken down or something.
Because they're probably the most copyright flaunting things you put up in a long time.
There's a lot of copyright things in there.
Yeah.
There's also a playlist for them on our YouTube channel. So,
it was a great time, and none of them have been taken down or gotten any strikes yet.
No,
correct?
It's been fine. Okay. I don't think anybody's really going to care that much, but just in case.
However, it did take up the time we normally use for this.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There probably time and also extra, because I was using a lot of audio equipment I had never actually used before.
So July's time was sacrificed to the E3 gods, but now we're back on our regular monthly schedule.
But hey, the month before I had 2 podcasts because of C2E2.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
It evens out.
If you check it out, I think you're going to agree with me that it was worth it. There's some great stuff in there.
Just watch the Sony one.
Well, yeah, I was in that one.
Yeah. I like the Sony one.
That was one of my 3.
Yeah.
But anyhow, back to the matter at hand. Correct?
Yes.
Speaking of E3, our Let's Play segment was actually born from this year's E3. The Banner Saga devs, who are Stoic Studio, they had an interview with the YouTube stream, so Jeff Keighley, pretty early on, and they talked about how they had watched hundreds of hours of Let's Plays and Twitch streams in order to plan their game. And I thought that was really interesting. I made a joke about it on Twitter. They responded to me, and so I'm like, hey, you want to talk about this? I have a podcast, and they never got back to me.
Oh no! They were probably busy making a game.
Yeah, and watching a couple extra 100 hours of Let's Plays and Twitch streams. However, I did put out an open call to other people and got a good handful of replies.
Oh, nice.
So from people that aren't them, let's see. I haven't seen him in the stream yet, but he'll probably show up. One of our regular viewers, CompuFreak, is also a game dev, and he answered some of my questions. Let's see. Dan Teasdale of No Goblin Games, formerly worked on things like Rock Band and the Destroy All Humans series, is currently hard at work on No Goblin Game 2, as yet unnamed, and some other fine folks that we don't know personally, but gave us some good food for thought. So before we get to the experts, what do you think about the usefulness of Let's Play as a tool for development and planning game dev?
I mean, it's kind of just an extension of what game studios have already done, where they do play tests and focus testing and stuff like that to see, what parts of the game we're working on are like, coming clear across, like they know how to play it, the tutorial works right, and all of that, what they like, what they don't like, how is it too difficult and all that. Like, I think that is just basically an extension of that, except with a way larger pool. Although, granted, it's not really controlled the same way actual play tests and focus testing is. So it might, each person might not be as, also, you don't really know that much about them, so it might not be as useful information, but there's so much of it that I think it might kind of balance out and end up being quite useful anyways. Because there's also stuff that, even when games are finished and they're shipped out, there's still going to be stuff that was missed. There's still going to be, either missed or they didn't have time to work on it or something. And so there's still going to be like a frustrating segment or something that doesn't come across clear in the game. And maybe it's something that was just completely overlooked. And I think Let's Plays is like a good post-release way to go like, oh, this thing is messed up or isn't clear enough. Maybe we can patch that if they're a developer that's nice enough or has the money to actually do that afterwards.
Right.
Like, people who do that, who do that a lot are the people who make the Witcher series. They have always put out like tons of patches afterwards for free to add in more content or to fix stuff people complain about afterwards. Like Witcher 3 came out pretty recently, and a lot of people on videos and stuff were complaining that the movement in the game wasn't great because it had like a really large amount of animation priority, so it was a little clunky, a little slow. And they just released a patch that like immediately addressed that. So if you want to, you can just switch it over to something that's a lot snappier.
Right. Cool. That does speak to. I'm just going to go through. It's easier for me to go through each of our contributors one by one. But some of the things you mentioned do jump out as really agreeing with, as I meant, Dan Teasdale of No Goblin Games.
Yeah.
Play a roundabout. But yeah, part of his process has always been just going out, buying a ton of games on the company card and spend a couple of days just immersing yourselves in what is coming out now and what's interesting. But as an independent studio and looking for efficiencies and not having a company card, just going through YouTube is a much simpler and more efficient way. I'm sure even some larger companies are going to go for, just to get a sense of the full gaming landscape at the moment. And so even if you're not looking at, say, a previous entry in the same series to see what people are looking at, just what mechanics are people responding to? What's big in UI right now, and is it working? Stuff like that. Just tear it apart into building blocks that you can put together into your own completely different piece of work at the end. But he's also day one and early LPs and streams and video reviews, things like that went right back into Roundabout. So things like fixing a stutter on non-60 hertz monitors, and an issue with very specific ATI cards that weren't caught earlier.
Yes, that's right.
Because the streamers they work with pre-launch for like hype and stuff don't have old ATI cards. And stuff like once it got out into the bigger ecosystem, seeing PC gamers on Steam forums complaining about not having all of the sliders they wanted.
Yep, you gotta have the FOV, man.
Which have then been put in sense.
Yeah, there's this isn't entirely Let's Play based, but it's similar in that it's gathering information on how people play those games after the fact it's been released. Is like Valve has a ton of analytics stuff from how people play it. Like you can look up graphs still that show it's like a heat map of like where players died in every map of like Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and so like there's these huge spots. It's like, okay, lots of people are dying there. Why? And like I can still see using Let's Plays in a really similar way to that.
Yeah. Also, so he said some great stuff about because of games done quick, they added a speedrun mode to Roundabout which they wouldn't have done otherwise, and it's become a really competitive mode, like on Steam leaderboards.
Yeah.
And it's gotten into SGDQ. It's
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
not only going to be present, it is the logo of SGDQ.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't
don't
know
know
that.
if you've seen it, but yeah, it's Giorgio in the default powder blue limo skin, driving a bunch of other characters from this year's games, waving out the windows.
Huh.
It's a pretty cool logo.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
But ironically, they're doing the cutscene run, which you would do to show off roundabout to an audience. Mm-hmm. But they built in a speedrun mode that isn't being done at the speedrun showcase.
Oh, that's a little weird.
So yeah, it is a interesting thing to see. Basically, showing what people's tastes are, so you can give play to expectations. And like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a speedrun mode? There's no reason not to. Just put in some timers, and it sort of helps the game take off, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I still frequently see people posting in a couple different threads, in a couple different places of like people just like polishing their runs of that game. I know Studio is like one of the best dudes at that, because I've seen him on the leaderboard a lot. Although I think he's one of the dudes who tested the game, so that makes sense.
Right. Now, there's some disagreement between the people that responded to my questionnaire about whether LPs are a useful tool. So CompuFreak, who I mentioned, sees it as useful in hindsight, reflecting on design decisions and then considering on those for the future. Whereas, like I mentioned, Dan was more like, yeah, this is a thing we always did, and now we don't have to pay for the games to do it. we can just get mass quantities of data because people are beaming it out, just begging for someone to listen, and I'm more than happy to pick up that phone. One of my Twitter followers who has not yet shipped a game but is working on his first, it's going to be called Hyper City Gaiden, a Strider-esque action game.
Oh shit.
Part of a two-person studio looking to release in 2016. So keep an eye out for it. If you happen to be binging through our archive sometime next year. But I'm sure there will be more news to share between now and then. One thing a lot of people mentioned, one of the questions I asked was if there are creators or styles of video that are more useful than others, and if you watch LPs sort of recreationally as opposed to that for research, like for work. Do you look for something else? And Joshua here says that he never watches LPs as a part of work process, just something he always does and has gleaned insights from. Someone said the exact opposite. Trying to remember who it was. I think it was the other person that I haven't mentioned yet. He gave a screen name because he has a Slavic name that I'm terrified to pronounce.
Okay.
But Soviet Bear, who is currently LPing El Shaddai, every LP he watches he considers for work, except for like completely goofy stuff like Low Texas gaming garbage. Aside from that, everything is a way to study games. Now, while he says that somebody who just plays the game and thinks out loud is useful to him. Going back to Dan Teasdale, he considers commentary not entirely irrelevant, but like 95%.
Okay.
just watching how people play and the choices they make, a lot more useful from his perspective than what jokes you're making, if you're making jokes.
From what I've seen just from work, a lot of the time it really is like there are when people have to like play test, like I've seen some people play testing like some old DLC for Saints Row 4, but now it's being shipped to Japan or something like that. Like there are surveys people fill out and all that, but really all they're looking for the most part is how they're playing, because they usually record all of that, or they have streams going so people can come in and just like watch like this 8x4 grid of people playing the same thing. And then they have actual like developer tools that gather stats from their playthroughs to show like, hey, did they crash or something, or did something weird happen? Oh, they went through the geometry. Where was it on the map? You know, when did it happen? What were they doing? And all of that. So there are questionnaires they fill out, but it's mostly just what they are doing and not what they're saying.
I mean, that makes sense. If you're going for such a volume, you can't really be paying attention. It'd just be a cacophony.
Yeah, like when they actually ask them things, it's only like a couple really key things, like 3 questions per person.
Yeah. So one of the other questions that I asked everybody and got some interesting answers on are whether gaming videos are like a focused group. Do you see them having the same strengths, maybe the same weaknesses? And a pretty popular answer is pretty much and yes to both, strengths and weaknesses. You never know whether the people you're watching, I mean, it's a sample size problem, right?
Right.
Are they representative of everybody who's playing a game? And Soviet Bear has a bit of a specific perspective because he works on hidden object puzzle adventure games for mobile. And those are not what the most popular things to stream, to say the least. He enjoys watching people LP his work, but it's pretty much 2 people from the way he says it.
Okay.
A very useful and enjoyable 2 people from the sound of it, but 2 people.
Yeah.
So you do worry, like, these. I enjoy these perspectives, but I'm looking at these download numbers, and that is nowhere near a sizable, like, that. There's no quorum there.
Yeah. I suppose that stuff would be extra helpful for people who are making early access games. Although most early access things seem, I don't know if they're putting forward the effort. From a lot of the early access stuff I've seen, they're obviously, you know.
Are you planning to ever be finished? What is finished?
Yeah.
How many dinosaurs do I have to kill before you just finish the dang game?
There are some games that are just always evolving, and I think that works even better for them. Like, there's some stuff that won't technically ever be finished, but that's just because they're always updating it pretty frequently. Although that kind of loops back into like the gaming as a service platform style thing. Forever in early access.
And CompuFreak sort of expanded on the focus group question, saying that one of the main drawbacks videos have is the lack of a guiding hand from the developer. Yeah, like you're completely one thing. There's no one to guide the discussion like in a focus group. There's no questionnaire. People are just going to take the thing and do what they please. Yeah, which is its own strength and weakness.
It's a slightly different type of like data you're gathering.
Because I mean,
what are people doing when there's nobody around?
So are the folks at home, right? Yeah. But also, like, please answer this one specific question I'm watching your video for. Oh no, you turned left instead of right. I'm never gonna know. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if people are interested, and if I get permission from the respondents, I might make these responses known publicly if people are interested.
Okay.
But I think there's some good stuff in here. And I'm so glad I asked people instead of just embarrassing myself by rambling like some sort of know-it-all who doesn't actually know anything. So one more big round of plugs for the 4 responses I got in time.
Hooray!
There's some more coming, I'm sure. Yeah, I gave him a deadline in there. But once again, thank you to Dan Teasdale and all of No Goblin. Please check out Roundabout. And I've got Panzer, the other half of No Goblin, gave me some... it's either half or a third these days. They might have a part-timer helping with some stuff. But she gave me some real tantalizing hints about No Goblin Game 2 while I was getting in touch with them. It's going to be something. CompuFreak, you can check out some of his stuff. He's currently... His only active public-facing project is a actual play podcast of Shadowrun. So if you're sick of the dozens of games we play on 6 Feet Under, or just have a little more time in your podcast schedule, check them out. He's playing with members from the Scottish Drop LP crew, which is a bit of a wide-ranging network as well. Again, Joshua Clay, keep an ear to the ground for Hyper City Gaiden coming at some point late next year. And it was 5, not 4. How silly of me. And Real Soviet Bear, who does 2 streams a week on Hitbox and is currently putting up an LP of El Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron on the SA forums.
That game's real weird.
It's pretty weird. So there's your shout-outs, and thank you to all 5 of you. And,
thanks, everybody.
I will be getting back to you if you want me to share your stuff in its entirety with people. So I guess that brings us to our second topic.
This is the one I know nothing about, I think, right?
Yeah. You know you're going to die soon, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not soon, but
eventually.
You're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, we're all going to die. So, what do you think about that?
That is a thought that invades my head once every other week or so to make me feel real bad for a couple seconds before something happens and makes me forget about it.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a bad feeling.
Would you be surprised or interested to know that there's an entire field of psychology called terror management theory that's all about those few seconds?
Really?
And not really those few seconds. See, it's their contention that in the back of your head, you're kind of always aware that you're going to die someday. And everything you do is going to go away.
Oh, God.
And it attempts to explain human behavior, and more than human behavior, but all of culture, as a means to manage that constant existential terror. It's called terror management theory.
Oh, God.
This is going to be a heavy one, folks.
Oh, God. 2 heavy subjects in a row.
Welcome to July.
It's summer. We're going to die.
Yeah, if you want to just skip this one and go to the beach, that's fine. But I think it's really fascinating and interesting. For one thing, the claims made by terror management theory are the kind of great, big, audacious plan that I can't help but love. Just the idea that because we all know we're headed toward the great beyond someday, we're constantly working to prevent it. One obvious claim is that the belief in life after death, or eternal life, or reincarnation, all sorts of faiths are death-denying behaviors. That's a pretty easy logical jump to make if you assume that culture is a result of existential terror. That's one obvious part of culture that points to that. But how about joining organizations like the military, or getting involved in your city, or sports teams? Wrigley Field's been around for 100 years. A lot of its fans have died.
Yeah.
But they still put themselves in something that will go on beyond them. The Cubs are forever.
Right.
the patriotism is a death-denying behavior because with any luck, the United States will go on for another 250 years, etc. And family, having a lot of children, making sure your children turn out a lot like you, making sure they have your name. If somebody names their kid Junior, they might be worried about their legacy.
Please be me.
I'm sure there are a lot of rich people who love art, but why do you think they make sure their name is on the wing they helped pay for? So once you see it through this lens, you can start to see a lot of things that can be claimed as death-denying behaviors. So while I pull up some of my notes, do you have any thoughts so far? Any questions on that?
These are things that maybe I never put together as a thing, but all these are like individual observations I have had since I was about 6 years old. The first observation being when I was 7 years old, I was playing Anticipation on the NES with a friend, and I suddenly thought to myself, and then I had to immediately tell it to my friend Kyle, we are dying the second we are born. It was the deepest thing I had ever thought at that point in my life.
Kyle never came around again.
No, he stayed inside and played Dynasty Warriors for the next 8 years.
Awesome.
And then I had to tell him how to spell shoe.
Shoe is spelled S-K-U-L-L.
Oh, God.
One of the branches of terror management involves self-esteem, especially is a buffer against this constant low-level anxiety that they propose we have. So that if you're feeling good about yourself, you're not so worried about death cognitions and having a negative outlook on life. And tying back into culture as a death-denying behavior, self-esteem is pretty closely tied to culture. Like, if you're doing well in the things that culture says you're supposed to do well in, you feel pretty good about yourself. Yeah, your family is happy and healthy, and therefore you will live on through them, and you feel good, so you're not worried about death. At least not for now. I wonder how many people are just coming into the stream and then just walking right out Grandpa Simpson style.
Oh, God.
But then there's stuff about mortality salience. If your cultural worldview and your self-esteem is a death-denying function, then threatening those things should make you should have the same effect as being made aware of your own death. Which if you buy, it does explain. I keep leaving these outs, these rhetorical. Hey, read the literature. I'm not a researcher here. Don't bug me with this. I just think it's really interesting. But it explains why some people might be so might be so dogged in defending the things they enjoy, the things they value. Like, you don't get that invested in something that is arbitrary and personal unless you've got some serious investment in it. Maybe investment like it helps you deny that you are just headed toward oblivion, one day at a time. Yeah.
When I was 14, I created this thought that I'm pretty sure was posted on a dead journal somewhere, that the purpose of life is to entertain yourself so you forget that you're going to die. I'm pretty sure that's what I wrote. So that was me. I started all this. So, somebody with a degree read my dead journal, I think.
Nice. But the big thing that I love about this is their experimental procedures.
Okay.
Like, they're fascinating. Like, that other stuff is just interesting in its own right. But when you get into how they test these things, so it's not just people just passing papers around like, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds believable.
Or else, no. And just getting into academic slap fights like that. There is research. There are experiments into these things. And one thing is there's been a slow march toward just what you can do to make people reminded of death, to separate your experimental and control groups. Like some things like giving one group, telling them to plan their funeral, and giving another group like time to plan your wedding. Something that is equally stressful, maybe, but or you giving some people death anxiety and other people major college exam anxiety,
right?
As a control group. So they've even gotten this down to a point, step by step, where just looking at a computer screen that flashes for a fraction of a second, like subliminally, right? Death-related words and like images of skulls and things.
Oh my god.
And they've done tests that have had the same outcomes as the more direct stuff, and have therefore proven that these more benign subliminal things still get your brain primed in the same way as like, hey, you're gonna die. So it does make the tests easier to run, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But some of the tests they do are so interesting. Like they get your control group primed with something, not a non-death anxiety, and your experimental group with death anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And they're given a whole bunch of tools and a nail, well objects I should say, including a nail and a wooden cross. And they're like, okay, we need you to pound this nail into the wall to hang this cross, right? And just about all the objects are useless. You've got like a koosh ball and a cucumber and things that you could never pound a nail in.
Yeah.
And the test is to see how long it takes them to figure out you have to use the wooden cross as the hammer. Oh. Right?
Okay.
And people who have had their death anxiety triggered take longer to think about. It's harder for them to cognate that this religious symbol is a tool to be used in something that could be considered desecration. Like they're not meant to be hammers.
Yeah.
And they've done similar tests with like, okay, there's sand in this ink. We need you to strand the sand out of the ink. The only tool, the only object that could possibly do it out of what they're given is like a little 4x6 American flag that you wave on the 4th of July, right?
Right.
And people who have had their death salience picked up take a lot longer to figure that out or to be willing to do it. Like, no, there's got to be another way. And the differences are even more strongly correlated if, say in that case, if they're more patriotic, or in the earlier case, if they're Christian.
Right.
Also, in-group identification. They found that mortality salience is a lot. It leads people to consider people like them much more favorably than people unlike them. They've done this with religious groups and found Christians more willing to evaluate Jewish people negatively and vice versa than in the control group. Also, it was sort of in vogue and got a lot of press in 2004 when they used it to demonstrate that people who are aware of their mortality are more likely to vote for George W. Bush.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
which might explain some campaign strategies.
Yeah.
And also the Republican Party in general.
Yeah.
But I think the difference was more marked like Bush v. Kerry than Democrat/Republican. But there was a degree of difference to both. Mm-hmm. I notice our live studio audience hasn't said anything for a long time. just one zipped lips emoji for. So, if you want to check out terror management theory, it's so interesting to me.
That sounds really interesting.
I love big picture theories that aren't biotruths. That's garbage.
Yeah,
but...
biotruths are terrible.
Oh, guess who some of the most ardent debunkers are of terror management theory? Evolutionary psychology.
Oh, right.
Biotruths people.
Also, for the people in the chat who have been hearing all this talk, here's an emoji of a small pig to make it all better.
Enjoy your small pig emoji.
There's also this happy frog. Have him too.
Aww, it's sort of like a non-copyright infringing Keratin.
Yeah, it really is.
So now that you've heard about a little of the, not so much applications, but like experimental foundations, what do you think about that?
Out of a lot of the big picture things I've heard of, it's one of them where I'm like, yeah, all right. A lot more than the other ones.
It's just so audacious to explain all of human culture from one thing.
Yeah. It is one I find more agreeable than others, but...
Shoot for the moon, folks. Just go for it.
Yeah.
So that accidentally, we did set this topic before some recent events.
Oh,
so
God, we did.
Accidentally does segue us into probably the biggest recent gaming news.
Yeah.
The loss of Satoru Iwata, most recent, I almost said current, CEO and president of Nintendo and Nintendo of America.
Yeah, and he was there for like 13 years or something as CEO.
Although one thing, when we talk about the future that is notable, the previous CEO had the job before Iwata was even born.
Yeah, that dude was there for quite a long time, and apparently he ran Nintendo in a much different way than Iwata did.
Nintendo has been around for a very, very long time
Yeah.
and has had very, very few chief executives considering that longevity. But before we get into the company business, I just thought, what are some of your thoughts about Iwata? I know you heard the news while you were doing one of your weekly streams.
Yeah, it was near the end.
What was that like?
That was really shocking because I knew that he had been in and out a little bit for surgery over the past 2 years, but it was
he did sit out E3 and was replaced with a puppet.
Yeah. At first I was like, oh, maybe that was just because they felt like doing puppets, but it's maybe they did puppets because he wasn't looking so hot. But a year or two ago, when it's oh, he's out, he is getting major surgery, but then you're like, hey, the major surgery turned out great. It was there was a growth in his bile duct, but it came out fine, he's fine. And then you could tell he had lost weight when he had appeared on Nintendo Directs afterward, but it was okay, he's on the up and up, and then it was kablam. But I guess bile duct cancer can take you out really fast.
It may not have been sudden for him, for people close to him, but as far as public knowledge goes, it was very sudden and unexpected.
I mean, he was doing Nintendo press releases and interviews a week or two before he passed away, so he was still doing work at least.
Yeah. One thing that I'll always remember and appreciate is now before he started directs and Iwata asks and all these outreach things. So years and years ago, when E3 was even more awful and awkward, and there were a lot of pie charts in those days.
Oh yeah.
But one thing that I would always go on about was that part of the problem, the big problem, was that all these people were serving too many audiences at once.
Yeah.
And that if somebody just does a thing for mainstream press, a thing for investors, a thing for the people watching at home, they're going to be fantastically successful. Mm-hmm. And Iwata had the same damn idea, and I love him for it, and he proved me right, and it's fantastic. It really is.
Yeah, I wonder if he was the dude who like pushed for stuff like directs or who started that.
The word is yes.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. I don't know the sources off the top of my head, but I've heard him credited for that.
Okay. Because Nintendo Directs are like, they're great because they're like a mini E3 style thing for me that happens frequently
every
enough.
Couple months.
Every like 1.5 to 3 months, one happens, and it's like, oh boy, a half-hour thing I can get excited for because it's going to be goofy and there might be something cool there. Mm-hmm. And it's like genuinely goofy and not like, hey, we're Ubisoft, boop 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 fart or whatever they do every once a year.
But like a lot of things that have come out of Nintendo for a while, you can see that influence has spread over other press conferences.
Yeah.
Like, they just dropped all of the boring investor garbage. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
And so there's still a little tension, but it's not like it used to be. And it's a lot more focused on the millions of people watching one live stream or another at home.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Sony and Microsoft didn't do a thing more similar to the Treehouse stuff Nintendo does, because that was received so positively last year.
Just wait until next year.
Yeah, maybe.
Just wait. I'm serious.
Yeah.
And some other things... I think it was really great how they had someone come up from the design and coding process, or talent pool. Someone who applied to work at Nintendo just because he wanted to make video games and had never done it before, but he figured he could do it, and then turned out to be like an amazing coder.
Yeah, for people who don't know, he's done some really crazy stuff for some of Nintendo's games. One of the biggest ones would be Pokemon Gold and Silver on the Game Boy. When you beat that game, there's a whole post-game that is the continent from the original Red and Blue games. You can fight all the gym leaders there and fight the Elite Four there as well. It's a whole second game, basically, on that cartridge. And they were like, we want to do this, but like, there's no way to fit all of that on the Game Boy. We already have one full game. The story
was that they were having trouble fitting the first continent on, and then
you're right.
And then his compression algorithm let them put on a whole second game.
That's right. Yeah, that's how. They could barely even get the first game, and then he got second one in it. And then even when he was no longer like programming stuff, he was still sometimes like getting down to the trenches. Like he did that with Melee. Apparently, like they need like a bunch of playtesting, like bug testing stuff, and he was like, "Okay, we're doing this," and he just started doing it, even though he wasn't like in that position anymore.
Right? Because I mean, are you going to say no to the CEO?
Yeah.
But also the other famous stories about him as an executive. Last year, it was 2014 when they failed to hit some profit projections. Rather than doing layoffs and like clearing out their talent, he's like, no, all us executives are going to take a pay cut, and I'm going to take the biggest one.
Yeah, he cut his pay in like half or something.
Yeah,
that's absurd. I don't think I've ever heard of like any CEO actually cutting his own pay that severely.
And that perspective on it, to see it not as a punishment, but as protecting talent and investing in the future, so we aren't cutting ourselves off the legs. Short-term gain and a long-term loss. Do it the other way around. So he will certainly be missed. What do you think this means for Nintendo going forward?
It's gonna be really weird because, like, okay, so there's gonna be an interim CEO right now. There are two dudes. There's is either gonna be Miyamoto will temporarily be the president, or it'll be I actually can't remember the other guy's name. Takeda, maybe.
Right. But I know you're talking about he's not a very
he's not,
I guess, on stage kind of guy.
He's not well known as anybody else, but he's like done a lot of like important work on a lot of games for Nintendo.
And yeah.
I would think it might be him rather than Miyamoto, because I can't imagine him wanting to do that stuff.
I think Miyamoto is such more valuable to them as this Peter Pan figure of infinite imagination, you know?
Yeah.
And I can't imagine him at a board meeting. Like, he'd just be like waving a fairy wand and throwing glitter at people.
Yeah.
That bizarre smile that goes all the way around to the back of his head. Like,
like,
I don't think he's worn a suit in his life.
No. Like, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Nintendo once they get like the new, like, the next actual president because there's a very vocal part of Nintendo's investors that want them to like go heavily mobile and all this other stuff that's like Iwata always pushed against to not let it happen and keep them being like a console games person. Like, they're starting mobile now, but as like a side partnership thing with another developer, with Dina or whatever it's called, rather than just like, okay, we're going to take the people who made our good console games, okay, you're making mobile games only now or something. So it's going to be weird to see if like they're going to get some new guy in who's going to go and like do what what a lot of those investors want, which is like mobile, do a lot of DLC, do
people
a lot of
looking
this.
more for the short-term game and chasing where the
what
money seems to be.
Yeah, chasing what everybody else is also currently chasing.
Right.
Games as a service, DLC, microtransactions, free-to-play stuff.
Which would be such a loss for the industry. Like, there's a lot of people have been speculating. One thing I've seen a lot of people tend to do is like, oh, maybe now Nintendo will finally do that thing I always wanted them to do.
Maybe they'll do the Pokemon MMO. By the way, if you ever put thought into what a Pokemon MMO would be like, it would be terrible.
One that I saw is someone responding to like, well, maybe Nintendo will finally get some new ideas. And the response to that was, what do you mean finally? I think what you mean to say is Nintendo will have the same ideas everyone else has had.
Yeah. Finally, they will have the new idea that is other ideas that will be super successful as Mario is or something. And it's like, Nintendo has a lot of new ideas. They just aren't the huge, crazy, like, kablam, this is something completely new successes that's going to be as big as Mario is or something. Like Splatoon, there's a pretty good new idea.
Yeah.
It's pretty popular still. It still has a lot of people playing it. Like,
another one that struck me as funny is, do you think this means Nintendo will get back to their roots? Like,
what?
Trading cards?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What roots have they left?
I think they are the roots. They always have been. Like, I don't know.
My shirt from Target says so. With a little NES controller. Know your roots.
Yeah, it's going to be... I'm curious if this is going to impact the development of the NX somehow. Like,
whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is. They make it sound like it's a console, but it seems more likely to be a handheld. I don't know.
I'm sure it will. I mean...
Like the direction it's going in. Like, maybe they'll change it.
From the stage it seems to be in, from the mystery surrounding it, it looks like it could be steered in a lot of different directions right now. So... Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, going back to the roots means going back to the Love Hotel business.
Yep.
That's why Miyamoto's smile is so big.
Oh, God. We're going back to the Love Hotel business, but we're using Nintendo IPs to do it. I mean, look, Nintendo has Bayonetta 2.
Zero Suit Samus, no.
Oh, no. Look, Nintendo's got Bayonetta 2 exclusively on Love Hotels U. So, well,
And
Hideki Kami would
Camille
probably
was
be into,
never seen again.
yeah, Hideki Kami would probably be into that. He'd do the beautiful Joe pose, and then he would just enter, and then he'd never come back out.
So, yeah, not knowing much about their internal executive structure,
Yeah.
I can just say that I really hope they promote from within.
Yes.
I think it's ideal that they bring up somebody else who knows the game design and game development process, like intrinsically. Although that said, I hope they don't take away my magical elf, Miyamoto.
Yeah. Like, I just hope whatever happens, they continue to like have the same attitude that they've had for quite a while now. Like the Nintendo Directs are going to be weird now because if they continue to do them, like who's going to be the new face? Is it just going to be Reggie now?
Right.
Is it going to be Reggie and Bill Trinan and Broa Hour every time? Are they going to have a rotating cast? I don't know. Like, but I just hope they continue to be what they are right now because it's very different from every other like publisher and developer out there, and it's something I hope they keep because it makes them really unique.
Who else could have turned one of the biggest names in video games into a wacky office comedy?
Yeah.
Nobody else is stepping up to that plate. So, I'm just sad now.
Yeah. It was really surprising. It fucking sucks.
I suppose we should move on before we start to cry.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the Ask segment.
One day it'll have a theme.
Like a theme song?
Yeah.
We should get like interstitial music to divide up the segments.
Yeah,
everybody
we totally
loves that.
should. Yeah. I should.
But anyway, this comes from good friend Jacob Ormrod, the Rod of Orms. But he asks us a multifaceted question about all sorts of immersion. Oh no, you sent me two, and so yeah, do you want to do the immersion one since I already introduced it?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay.
This first question is, with Oculus Rift and VR now being a consumer reality, what do you think about their ability to make gaming far more immersive? It seems to me that motion controls only helped to pull us further away from gaming immersion and quickly became more of a fad than anything else. Do you think that VR headsets will be the next big milestone in gaming like some, including myself, do? So maybe like a week ago, I wouldn't be able to say anything about this because I've never done VR stuff before. But then I did. This last week, I actually got to play.
Yeah.
It's been at a bunch of gaming conventions now, and it just earlier last week got released to the public for $10. It is called actually, what is it called? It's a long name. It's the Bomb Defusal game. It is the game where one person with a VR headset has like a really randomly created, complicated bomb, and another person who cannot see what the person in VR is looking at has to go through a bomb manual and help you defuse it Hollywood movie style. It is incredibly fun, actually, and
that sounds bizarre, and I kind of love it.
Okay, so it's really awesome. So it's basically like, you have this bomb. There'll be a whole bunch of different modules on it, and like the most basic one, the one you start off with, is like just a module with a certain number of wires, and all the wires have different colors: red, white, blue, or yellow. And so then you'll be going like, okay, I got some wires here. I got 2 white, 2 blue, 1 red, or something like that. And they'll have to go through the manual, find the section that's talking about what happens if you find wires, and then it's like, if there's only 1 blue wire, then do this. But if there are 2 alternating between blue and yellow, then like do this instead. So like, and you're on a time limit too, like 3 minutes for the first one.
Bombs tend to be, yes.
So it's and they get more and more complicated as you go. So then there's like modules that have like memory test things in it. There's one that's like Police Knots-esque when you're defusing the bomb in that game, where you had to like grab this little magnet and push it through a maze without touching the sides. Except the maze is invisible. You just have to describe what it looks like to the person, and then they have to find the correct maze and describe which directions you have to go.
Oh, goodness.
It is...
Oh, goodness.
That is a game that I think doesn't work nearly as well unless you have that divide. Like, it works... Like, I can imagine you could do it as, like, a multiplayer thing, but it would... Like, an online multiplayer thing, but it loses a lot of the tension that you get from that immersion of one person only being able to see that bomb, only being able to describe to the person, and the other person not seeing it and having, like, just go on their word and, like, frantically go through this manual. Like, I think that is the first... Because I played a bunch of other, like, demo VR things, too, that were just, like, little rides and all that, and I think that was the first game where it's like, whoa, this immersion totally makes it. Like, I don't know if... I have a hard time believing that VR will make such a huge impact that it's like, it's just going to be a staple of games.
Right. I think that's a problem of availability. Like, how cheap can you make it?
Yeah.
And when you hit a tipping point where it's a thing you're just assumed to have, or else you're left out of the cultural conversation.
Yeah,
you know?
Like... A lot of Xboxes came with Kinects, but people didn't like that, so it got ditched. Are they just going to have to like bundle like a Morpheus with PlayStations in hopes that it'll catch on? And like, you know, there's like the Gear VR or the Oculus, but those are more PC centric, which means more setup. Even though it's easy setup, I still think that's going to be like a barrier entry to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Compared to something like Morpheus, where you would hopefully just plug it in and it goes.
I think, I definitely think VR headsets have the capacity and the potential, because every time I've heard someone talk about their experience, they do it in such glowing terms, like it's like nothing else, and it's
that bomb. I've never
amazing.
Experienced
These
anything.
Experiences, you know,
I've never experienced anything like that bomb defusal game, and it was absurdly fun. I probably could have played that for a couple of hours, just taking turns, because it's so much fun. It's something so new.
But distribution, how do you get people to buy in? You know?
I also guess it's just the question of, can people make up enough fresh new experiences to make people want to come back to VR have VR as just like that cool novelty you pulled out? Can
people make enough fresh new experiences for people to push buttons on a controller?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I am optimistic for it. I hope it takes off, because that bomb game on its own maybe like want more of that. Want more of that type of immersive experience. It didn't feel like it wasn't immersion of like, wow, this is real. It was just like, it was more like, it's hard to explain. It was just more like, wow, because I'm so walled off from everything else and I can only look at this, I'm way more invested.
Right. Like a level of engagement that's just beyond.
Yeah.
Like, just off the charts.
Yeah.
So, second question, this multi-part question. People keep sending us multi-part questions. Do you think they're cheating? Is this cheating?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. On the subject of gaming immersion, how important do you think a game's story is in immersing someone? For example, Spec Ops: The Line, I found incredibly immersing due to the story, while the gameplay itself was a standard and mediocre cover shooter. It seems interesting that, while many argue is a game's strong point, its ability to be interactive due to game mechanics can be sidelined for the story and still succeed as an immersive game, in my opinion anyway. What is your take on this? I think it depends on what you mean by immersion. Like you were saying.
Yeah. Immersion or investment?
Investment certainly, but immersion, like I'm totally in it. Like, I don't know. Like, getting locked up in it so that you don't notice your food is burning, maybe.
Yeah.
And to that point, I'd probably call that immersion.
There's certainly been times I've been immersed in games before. Generally, it's just been the game had a really good sense of place and really good atmosphere and sound design. And that stuff is what pulled me in. Like, when I played the first Amnesia for the first time, I was pretty immersed in that game because it was also none of the lights were on. It was like nighttime or something, and I had headphones on. Like that stuff, can definitely make the game more enjoyable just because of that level you get otherwise. Most of the time, story doesn't really immerse me more as it just makes me invested. I totally agree that having like a story that you can be invested in will make a not great game far more enjoyable and make you like excuse like not great gameplay. I've definitely played a lot of those games before where it's like it's not great to play, but the story is what's keeping me going on, and then, so I can just excuse that. Like Deadly Premonition or something. The story and the atmosphere of that thing is good enough for me that I can ignore the fact that it does not play very well.
Yeah, I think a good story can certainly really be a powerful tool for engagement. But if for myself, if I want to get to the point where engagement becomes immersion, it better be a really damn good story or have other things going on, like something to make my thumbs happy as well.
Like I'm always trying to imagine like, would the final boss fight of the Wonderful 101 be anywhere as like engaging if they didn't have the story ramp up to that? Like,
right, yeah.
Like if the presentation of the story of 101 was something different and less exciting, like everything else about that game I would like a lot less. Even though I really enjoy how that game plays.
So there wasn't much of a... The question was just to make a discussion, and I think we had that discussion. So thanks for your question, Jake. I hope you don't feel underserved by our response.
I just need to play more VR stuff. I need to play the VR thing where you just sit in a hallway and a dinosaur walks up to you and you're like, what? That's like one. That's like one of the. That's like one of the big VR like experiences right now. Is just this dinosaur just runs up to you and gets in your face, and you're like, "Whoa, this dinosaur's 3D." And like that's the whole thing. It's like 2 minutes long.
But do they move in herds?
No, it's just one dinosaur in a hallway.
So once again, if people want to submit a question to next month's Ask segment, where do they do that?
Chip cheese 'em at chipandironicast.com.
Fantastic. Before we sign off, just some last minute plugs. I talk about 6 Feet Under every once in a while, but this time it's especially apropos because our most recently uploaded episode, as of the time of this recording, has you.
I was
you
in
as
it.
Our very special guest.
I was a ghost detective in it.
You were the spectral, the spectral sleuth, ghost detective.
Yeah.
And I was living out my fan fiction dreams. I wasn't the only one though, so.
Oh, that's right. Somebody in the chat reminded us that bomb defusal VR game. If you have VR stuff and you want to try it yourself, is called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
That's a fantastic title.
It's a great title, yeah.
That's a great title.
You had to like download the manual, the actual bomb defusal manual too, but yeah, it's super fun.
Other podcasts you should keep an eye on the 23rd. That's a Thursday. On the 23rd, there will be a new episode of Alka Hollywood on Big Trouble in Little China, and I'm going to be in it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then the week after that, I think, is the actual release date of the 200th episode Spectacular, which I'm also in.
Damn.
The voice cast of. So, yeah, that'll be fun. If you're in Chicago and you want to go to the 200th episode party, it's going to be on Tuesday, the 28th at Geek Bar Chicago in Wicker Park. So I'm going to be going to that too.
Cool.
Because, hey, party at a bar with friends. Why not? I can point to 2 lines in the thing they're promoting and be like, I'm in that. I have 2 lines in that thing. I also did some of the crowd chatter. So yeah, you got anything you want to tell people to keep an eye open for?
I mean, I do weekly streams every Sunday afternoon. Doing one soon
Weekly
after
streams.
this. After this, it's hitbox.tv/chipcheesem. We have a Patreon, of course, patreon.com/chipironicus.
Which makes this show possible.
Yeah. And I know there's something else. Oh, the fight.
The fight.
We're recording
The fight
that.
is coming.
It's coming pretty soon.
There's a date for the fight.
Yeah, late August. We're going to be finally recording the basically almost pretty close to the 7-year anniversary of all this dumb crap we do. We're going to punch each other virtually.
Yeah.
I don't know what you get for the 7th anniversary, but apparently it's going to be punching each other.
Yeah, well, that's when most relationships fail. So yeah, keep an ear to the ground for all those wonderful, fantastic things. Mm-hmm. So, be excellent to one another. Good night, folks.
Goodbye.